The books that I read for the last 40 years, and today I have Master Pastor Gas. He is the author of the book Antidote, a new emotional wealth framework to build resilience, no other than Mr. JC Chamberlain.
Hello.
Welcome to Book 101, Mr. JC, and can you please introduce more about yourself?
Hi, Daniel. It's so great to be here. And I'm in the Washington, D.C. area. I've been a competitive cyclist for most of my life. And, uh, and then one thing led to another, and I decided to write this book.
Mr. JC Chamberlain, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge to the world. Can you explain what you mean by emotional wealth in the context of your framework?
Sure. I think we all have emotional bank accounts that we can rely on in times of need. And the primary way to get in touch with those is by joining organizations and realizing that when we participate in organizations, we build our social network and we build an emotional bank account that we can draw upon in times of need.
Yes, interesting indeed. How does your framework for building resilience differ from traditional models?
I came about this because about 12 years ago, I was on a bicycle ride on a beautiful Saturday afternoon, and I went through an intersection on a country road and I was hit broadside by a car. And I was thrown 100 feet and I landed on my face in the gravel. There was just one other bike rider with me, and he turned out to be a medical doctor. And it turned out that the guy who hit me was also a medical doctor. And the two of them, first on the scene, both of them with a front row seat to the impact, they assumed that I was dead. They could not imagine that I might have survived such an impact. And their medical training kicked in, and they discovered that I had a pulse and that I was breathing, but I was out. I was really out. And so they got me an ambulance. And in the ambulance, I had an extraordinary experience. And you've probably heard about these from time to time. They're so crystal clear you can't make them up. And some people who have had a near death experience go down a long tunnel with a lot of light and they have an interaction with a deity or some kind of universal power. And then they decide to come back. And in my case, I suddenly found myself face to face with the higher power. And I was welcome to ask anything. And I said, why me? Why this? Why now? What do you want from me? And God's answer came without me needing ears or a mouth. It simply said, there was a fatal accident in your future that only I can see. And because I'm not done with you, I chose this accident because it will change the course of your life. But it is survivable. And that means today will not be that day. And Daniel, 90 minutes later, I woke up in an ER. And strange enough, there was a guy holding my left hand that I'd never seen before. And the bike rider that I was with out there on that country road was at the foot of the bed with his street clothes on. And the guy on my left, he was holding my left hand, but I could not hold it back. My body was paralyzed on the left side, and I could not figure out what was going on. It turned out that that was another MD, an emergency room doctor, who had hit me. He ran a stop sign, and he wound up following the ambulance to the hospital, and he was waiting for me to wake up. So I had this extraordinary experience in the ambulance and then in the ER. And little by little, I began to, I kind of was dazed. And the surgeons came to my bedside and they said, if you work hard, you can walk again, but you probably never bike ride. And I'm
W-
sad to tell you, but I've ridden 438,000 miles in my life since 1970, and I'm a five-time national champion in two sports. So for someone to tell me that I could not move anymore, that I was not going to be able to bike ride, was really catastrophic for me. And so I began to work my way through this, and I realized that I had all these communities that showed up for me: my church, my family, my sport, my work. And they helped lift me out of a pretty bad place where I thought, this was the end for me, physically, athletically. And I realized that I had these resources. And I slowly began to identify 7 areas of my life that are these tremendous resources that we can bring to bear on a crisis whenever we find ourselves in a setback of a significant magnitude. And so that's how the book happened. I began telling the story, and people said, "You should write a book." I said, "Well, I don't know if I want to write a book. That sounds like a lot of work." But it's been a really fulfilling process, and I had a great book coach and a wonderful publisher, and am blessed to have finally say that I have a book and I can share it with the world, and I hope it will be helpful.
Indeed, let's celebrate your second life, Mr. JC. Amazing, amazing journey. What are the first signs that someone might need to strengthen their emotional resilience?
What was the first time?
Yes, what's the first signs?
I think I realized right away. My A friend of mine showed up who had we'd been in the church together, and he said, "I want you to come to the congregation and speak to the congregation. Tell them thank you for all the cards that they sent and the beautiful prayer quilt that they sent you when you were in the hospital, in the rehab hospital." And I lived there for 7 weeks trying to learn to walk. And he said, "This is such a great chance to say thank you to the church." And I said, "Well, I wrote something I'd love to share with them, but I can't get through it without it brings me to tears every time I try to tell the story." He said, "Well, I'll be over at your house on Sunday morning and I'll pick you up, and we'll go to church and let's just see what happens." And I realized that he believed in me at a time when I didn't believe in me. And this is an extraordinary feeling because I come from a background of being able to just do things. And I believed in me a lot of times in my life when nobody else believed in me. And I realized that I had this tremendous community, starting with my church and my family and my friends. And they showed up. And this guy brought me to church and he said, "I'll get you to the pulpit." He said, when you get up there, everything's going to be fine." And I got up and I spoke with no tears, and I sat down and I realized that I had this huge resource in my church community and that I should start exploring these other resources to help me recover from this huge setback. And that's what happened.
Interesting indeed, Mr. JC. And you mentioned antidotes. What are the most powerful ones you've identified?
Well, there are 7. I think, the most powerful one is your dreams, because you begin each day, the thing that gets you out of bed is you aspire to something, right? And
Yes.
once you aspire to something, anything, whether it's financial security or health or simply surviving at work, then you are inspired to take action. And only once you take action can your dreams come true. So we aspire, we are then inspired, and then we perspire. And that cycle reminds me how powerful are our dreams. So that's the beginning of emotional wealth. And I call it emotional wealth, WELLTH, because it's a combination of the word wellness and being wealthy in what matters most, which is these relationships. So I would say dreams is the first and foremost element of the emotional wealth framework.
Dreams indeed, people. So, how does your book blend research and real world application, Mr. JC?
I think we take strides each day, but I think if you had to boil this idea down to one word, it's join, belong, belong to something. Because through our communities, we find a tremendous resource. And each of us has a positive balance in our emotional bank accounts already. We don't realize how valuable that is until we have a setback. And when we do have a setback, we have to dig deep. And sometimes we just don't know where to look. But if you've had a lifelong pattern of learning, then you find that you can look for resources. Today it's easier because you can look online uh, to find almost anything. And so one of the elements of the framework is lifelong learning.
Lifelong learning. Do you believe emotional wealth can be taught, or is it something people develop naturally?
I think it needs to be taught. I did not realize that I had all of this wealth, all of these resources until I had a setback. And I think we lumber along through life uh, without realizing the power of these bank accounts to help us recover from setbacks. And we all have setbacks. We have a relationship problem. Maybe as an adult, we have a divorce. We get downsized from work. We have a health conflict. There are lots of setbacks that are natural to life. And this is an opportunity for us to look at our resources of health, our life of learning, our life of earning, our life of giving back, and our connection to the divine that go along with your dreams. And so these are the seven areas of the emotional wealth bank accounts.
Connection with the divine. That's amazing. Can you share a success story where someone transformed in their life using your framework?
Well, I think one of the easiest places to look is in our relationships, um, because when we love, we are loved back, and this is a powerful resource uh, when you find yourself in a pattern of uh, falling out of love. Perhaps you've had a relationship or the relationship wasn't quite balanced between two people. Then you can turn to someone that you've known for a very long time, whether it's a family member or a friend, and they become a resource for you during that time. So I think, as a practical matter, we can lean on others because we have given into those relationships. We have helped to pay it forward. I think that's the best way to refer to it as we've made deposits in these emotional bank accounts, whether we intended to or not, simply by belonging to groups, whether it be employed at a job, being a member of a family, um, finding ourselves in a relationship, or joining a club. Something as simple as that can result in us having a balance in these accounts. And one of the areas that I refer to frequently, but it's an area that many of us don't think of as a asset, in the same way as other emotional assets, and that is insurance, bank accounts, home ownership, car ownership, all kinds of assets that you might own, whether it's stocks or bonds or other kinds of savings. These assets give you emotional calm because just like now, we see around the world, there's a lot of anxiety around financial stability. But if you have resources that you've developed and you create a pattern of savings, I identify three ways for people to build that bank, which is your assets, beginning with your A accounts, which is your bank accounts, your regular checking and savings accounts. Your B assets, which is your buffer, 6 months of income that allows you to be strong in a time of setback. And if you need an extra resource at a certain time, maybe you have an emergency, then you'll have it. And then long term, there's a huge power of, of dividends, which are your C accounts, which is compounding. So ABCs of money creates emotional calm and emotional resilience at a time when you might be destabilized. This is the one that we forget how powerful it is, but it's really emotionally charged. Is having your finances in order.
Mr. JC, as an author, what will be your short term and long term goals?
Say that again.
As an author, what will be your short term and long term goals?
Short term and long term goals. As an author,
Yes, please.
short term, I hope that people will read the book. We're having a lot of success. We've sold over 2,000 copies already since January, and mostly people are listening to the book on Audible. So
Mm.
that's wonderful that people find it easy to listen. Um, I'm the only one who doesn't recognize the reader because it was me. And we say that on Audible, it's hard to recognize our own voice. But that was a lot of fun to record the book. So I recommend the Kindle and the Audible. Short term, I hope people will read the book and share it with someone that you think needs a plan B in their life. Because this book is really about how I had a huge setback and I needed to discover my plan B for my life. This is, like you said at the beginning, welcome to my second life. And
Yes,
it's
and
so exciting to be able to share that, with you and your audience.
thank you for empowering us, Mr. Gacy, and looking for more and more empowering books like this to come. And good luck to your goals. So, what will be your advice for those people out there who losing hope for their life?
Yeah, I think there's a lot to believe in. Um, there's an easy thing to do is to look at the framework, and I've developed a life satisfaction survey that allows people to look at these 7 areas of their life and rank themselves 1 to 7 on how they're doing in each of the 7 elements of the emotional wealth framework. And that allows us to look at the resources that you used in order to reach that decision. So I think this is a very powerful and practical way that people can immediately get an assessment of how they're doing and see where there are opportunities for improvement, but more importantly, look at where they're already strong. And I think this is the biggest benefit that's coming out of people reading the book is that they see where they have strengths already, and finding their strengths is a very powerful way to proceed during a time of when you're having a difficult time or lack of hope. So we already have these resources, and we can find the strengths and build them up.
Indeed, Mr. JC, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, book 101 review in fifth season, comedy 101 in second season, and food 101 in its fifth season, geography 101 and love letters in third season, and my baby podcast Mental Health 101, Movie 101 Review, and Music 101 in its fourth season, and Science 101 and Sex 101 at the first season. Please do listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. Mr. JC, if readers could implement just one idea from your book, which one would you want it be?
I think the thing that we underestimate the value is when we give back. And, we have an extraordinary economy in our country, in our two countries, Canada and the United States. And we lead the world in generating physical assets, wealth, but we also lead the world in giving back. In the United States, in 2023, we gave almost $500 billion to charity. And I think what
Yes.
happens when we give back, whether it's in time or actual hard dollars of contributions, is that our heart grows and we find that that in and of itself is a resource. So never underestimate your ability to give back, and that it actually will give back to you.
Yes, it's better to give than to receive, people. Mr. JC Chamberlain, thank you so much for empowering us. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge to the world. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your book?
Certainly, please go to antidotethebook.com and you will subscribe. You can subscribe for free, and there is also premium subscription where you get signed book and you get special invitations to events that are coming up. So please
Yes,
go
people.
to antidotethebook.com and subscribe for free.
Yes, people, let's support Mr. JC Chamberlain because if you support him, have I said, more and more and more empowering books like this to come. So, Mr. JC, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Daniel. Great to be here.
More to come, people. See you soon.